You're listening to Play Therapy Community Podcast, episode 58.
Welcome to Play Therapy Community Podcast, providing connection, information, and inspiration to child therapists all around the world. Here's your host, a licensed psychotherapist, a registered play therapist, and my mom, Jackie Flynn.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Play Therapy Community Podcast. I am so excited about today's episode. It's actually with a podcasting colleague of mine, and she is amazing, and she has a really passionate topic that she's going to talk to us about today and really share a lot of information that I don't feel like is common knowledge, but it's really good to know, especially for parents and child therapists. So, Kat, let me have you introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to talk with you and to share with your listeners about this topic that I'm so passionate about. I really appreciate you sharing about this. So, my name is Katayune Kaeni. I go by Kat or Dr. Kat because that's a whole lot of name to deal with. And I'm a psychologist. I specialize in perinatal mood disorders, and also known as maternal mental health, also known as perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. There's a lot of acronyms for these types of issues. More commonly, it's known as maternal mental health. And so what that is essentially is mental health issues that come up during conception, pregnancy loss, and birth, and postpartum. So those are a lot of different transitional times in a mom or a dad or partner or family's life. And a lot of different things can happen that can lead to mood changes. And as you were saying before, not a lot of people are aware of all of the things that can happen, and that these are treatable conditions and that they can get help for them.
Yes, there's hope for some of the pain that goes along with those transitions.
Yeah, there really is. So one of the things that's more commonly known about is postpartum depression, but that's just one of the things that someone can experience during this period of time, this reproductive period of time, and that's kind of what gets the most attention. But there are quite a few other things that people can experience, and not everyone identifies with that feeling of depression. So,
I think that's really important to know that not everybody does identify with it. And for people that have never felt it or don't understand it, it can seem really confusing and almost like one of those situations where people may say, well, you have this, and this to be happy about. Why aren't you happy? So It can really take that misinformation route that can not help any part of the situation. So I'm really excited to get some clarity on it. So tell us about what is postpartum depression and what is it not?
Right. So some people may have heard of the baby blues. And oftentimes that gets confused with postpartum depression. So I'll kind of start from the baby blues. Is about a 2, at the most 3-week period of time after the birth of a child where a mom will experience changes in mood, feel tearful, not quite feel like herself, feel very exhausted. Some people have likened it to like very intense PMS, but there are still periods of time where they can feel okay. And then after about a couple of weeks, after that initial transition time, the symptoms start to resolve and mom starts to feel a little bit better. If the symptoms and that fatigue and sadness and crying and worry is lasting in an intense way, or kind of an intense way, longer than 2 to 3 weeks, then we're probably looking at something else like a postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. So that's the most fundamental highlight and differentiation that I would want to make, is that if you're experiencing symptoms that are lasting longer than a couple of weeks right after postpartum, then it's most likely something else. And that's really important distinction.
And you mentioned postpartum anxiety. I think that's a very, less known.
Yeah.
People don't hear that term as much as they do postpartum depression.
Right. So exactly, postpartum depression is what's more known about, but most often depression comes with anxiety as well. And with a more recent research, we're finding out that anxiety is more prevalent than depression. And it comes up in more ways that are sort of, how do I say it? It can be really hard to identify because people associate motherhood with being a little bit more hypervigilant anyways. You can hear every pin drop, every noise that your baby makes, and you're up and you're listening. And there is a really natural hypervigilance that comes up after birth. And that's fine and normal. When we start to worry is when moms are not able to sleep, are not able to feel reassured after they've checked on their baby that their baby is okay. If there's continual checking, if they are having a really hard time resting when the baby is resting, even though, there's always a long list of things to do. But if she's really tired, can she sleep at night? And does she seem worried or feel worried about any number of things that is getting in the way of her kind of getting through the day, or that she feels preoccupied by in terms of her own health or something going on with the baby?
Now, both of those, how are they different from just general depression or general anxiety?
Yeah, so this is really important because I've heard a lot of therapists and a lot of people say, well, it's just depression, right? But it's not. Your kind of general depression, for the most part, people are dealing with it, and the depression is, and not to minimize it, but it's the only thing that's going on. But with a postpartum depression, you also have a huge change in hormones. Specifically, there's all these hormones that are in your body to, grow the baby and get your body all prepared and ready. And as soon as that baby comes out, they plummet. They drop really fast. And if your body is preparing to nurse, and for most women, there's then after the baby comes out, those hormones drop off, and then other hormones kick in to start milk production. And, so a lot of moms will experience this around day 3 to 6 or so, where they're just leaking from every place. They're crying, their boobs are leaking, all of this stuff is going on. And that's part of that huge transition of hormones.
It's so overwhelming too.
It
can be, when you're, experiencing it on a clinical level, it probably seems unbearable at times.
Yeah. And so the women who are a little more predisposed to potentially having a change postpartum, but with anxiety or depression, are people who have a history of difficulty with PMS or hormonal changes in general. They would be potentially experiencing big changes in their own postpartum that are kind of way magnified from their difficult PMS, but they are at a higher likelihood of experiencing this.
Oh, that's interesting. So kind of like a predictor in some way.
Yeah. There are a lot of different things that can go into kind of risk factors for developing a postpartum mood disorder. I don't like to say mood disorder because it sounds so heavy, but it really can be a heavy experience for a lot of people.
Oh, I know. And I know that a lot of times there's a lot of shame felt when in reality, it's something that just happens in your body and you can get help for it.
Yeah.
There's definitely no need for shame, but I think that shame comes with misunderstanding on many levels.
Oh, absolutely.
It can be really sad.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of shame. And in part there's some of this societal pressure, because what do we think of when we think of motherhood? It's what you were meant to do. This is what you've, wanted to do your whole life. But that's not true for everybody, but or that when you have that baby, you're going to know what to do, and you're supposed to be happy, and you're supposed to be fulfilled, and you're doing what your body was built to do. And all of these massive pressures, and not everybody feels all that wonderful.
Yes.
And it's a difficult transition, but also when you're sitting there feeling maybe the worst you've ever felt, or feeling terrible, and you have this brand new baby, and you're wondering, then why do I not feel happy? Why do I not want to pick this baby up? How come, I should be feeling all of these things? And that's where the shame comes in, is that this idea that we have of what motherhood is supposed to be like, and then what it actually is. For up to 20% of women feel really, really bad.
That's a high number.
Yeah. It's a lot.
And it's hard. And I think that bringing the information out in shows like this, or just getting it out through other kinds of literature or media, and letting people know, kind of normalizes it, but also gives people permission to talk about it and really seek help for it, and get treated and help their lives be happier and healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things about this, is that they are on some level preventable, very treatable. Moms do get better if they get the right help. And I will just also say that dads can experience paternal postpartum depression. It's much less discussed, but about 10% of dads can experience a postpartum mood change. And but if mom is also having a hard time, and this goes for partners too, same-sex partners, or any partner of someone who's given birth, can experience a mood change. If mom or the birthing person is having a mood disorder, then the partner's 50% more likely. And all of that really, it's a lot. You're already going through, you have a brand new job, trying to figure out how to care for this new little person, and then dealing with this on top of it is very hard. That's one of the other ways that it's different from a normal depression.
Now, this is something that, I didn't plan on discussing, but it's just a thought that came up in my mind was, if they have this with one child, is it something they're at high risk for with future children, or is it just kind of sometimes with one child, and then their next child, they may experience just a regular experience?
The likelihood is higher if they have a previous episode of a perinatal mood or anxiety disorder with any subsequent child. So it's not definitely going to happen. Certainly, if the symptoms are caught with the first, or the mom is seeking treatment prior and has the support of a therapist who's trained to cope and come up with a plan, then they can really cut back on the likelihood of developing depression or anxiety. But it's sort of like, if you're like on some level with anything else, once you're already primed to experience something, you're more likely to experience it again. So the likelihood does go up, but it's not set in stone. There are things that people can do to prepare and plan ahead and protect themselves against the intensity of it.
And I could imagine that'd be real helpful to come speak to a professional that could really guide you through that process too, to help you get through it. Now, a lot of the listeners on this show are child and family therapists. What kind of training is necessary to support this population, and where do you even find this training?
Yeah, there are quite a few amazing organizations doing this work on a national and international level. The first is Postpartum Support International. They offer trainings both online and in person, and they have annual conferences as well. And their trainings do travel, so they'll pick different spots in the U.S. and plop down and offer a 2-day certificate training. And that's really, it's a great training. That was one of the first trainings that I took. to specialize. Is pretty comprehensive. And also there are other organizations that offer, some offer only in-person trainings and some are online as well. There is the Postpartum Stress Center, which is in Philadelphia. And that's run by Karen Kleinman, who is one of the experts in the field. There's in Santa Barbara, California, there's a Postpartum Action Institute, and that is run by Shoshana Bennett, who is a leading expert, and Jane Honickman, who is a leading expert and also the founder of Postpartum Support International. There are other organizations called the Seleni Institute, and they're in New York. I'm sure I'm going to forget some others. There are some local LA organizations. Maternal Mental Health now offers an online training that anybody can take anywhere. Mm-hmm. And there are oftentimes local organizations, either within the state or within major city hubs, that are offering local training. So sometimes it's a matter of kind of searching on the internet to find who's offering these trainings.
It seems like a lot of resources, a lot of different options there.
Oh, there are. And more as time is going on, in part because, people are really fully understanding how this affects, it's not just affecting the mom. Mom is primarily going through it, but if mom is affected, then partner is affected, and it also affects the child, both in utero during pregnancy and as a newborn. Depending on the severity of symptoms, how depressed or anxious mom is, that is also having some effect on the child and the family.
Yes, and it can maybe affect the attachment of the parent-child relationship.
It does.
And I think that's why getting support and seeking out therapy is so very important for everyone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as I said before, this is treatable. It's you can get the help for it that you need, and you absolutely can feel better. And that's the message that most of the training organizations have and are using to get the word out, is that this is your, mom, dad, partner, you're not alone. You can feel better. And the help is available.
Yeah, and I know it's a very specialized niche, and there's not a lot of choices, at least that I'm aware of. So I think it's really important to get the message out there for therapists that are interested in helping in this area to seek out that training so that they can then add to the support options that people have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I would also definitely second that. And if there's other helping professionals out there, basically anybody who touches a mom who's trying to conceive, is pregnant, has lost a pregnancy, or birthed or postpartum, this information is really valuable to get a fuller understanding or a fuller picture, even if, what signs to look for. Because the one thing is that when we talk about, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, in your mind, you probably have a picture of a mom who's distraught and distressed, and you can tell. But that's the thing, you can't. And you can't always tell. And sometimes because of that shame and kind of confusion about what is even going on, some people are looking pretty together.
Yes. Like putting on a mask that,
oh, yeah,
okay, this is happy, this is the way it's supposed to be, but inside they're just hurting and very painful.
Yeah, that's
It doesn't have to be like that. There can be some support and some help to feel better.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of really great organizations working towards that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you have an amazing podcast, so I want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about the Mom and Mind podcast and your work in your practice and all of the ways that people can find out more about you and the resources that you have to offer. So tell us about you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I do have, I am in private practice in Claremont, California, but I do see people online, so anywhere in California. And as part of my work, I do see pregnant and postpartum moms in my practice. I run a group out of the local hospital that's for pregnant and postpartum moms, which is a free resource in this community. I'm very happy that it's remained free. I work with the county, my county, as a resident subject expert to conduct and provide trainings to the local area service providers. So every year this is our third year now, they offer a free training, which is so great.
Nice.
And, we get 150 to 200 people in there. And once, they leave, I know that there are that many more people out in the community who will be able to appropriately help a mom. It's so awesome.
My goodness, that gives me chills. Can you imagine? It's kind of like throwing a rock in a pond. You see all these circles forming. It's got to touch so many lives for years to come.
I hope so. And that's what I love about getting the word out, and why I appreciate you so much for having me on, is that even just having this in your awareness is so important. That like, I heard about this one thing somewhere and I know there's a resource. Even if you don't know what to do, now maybe you'll know where to look.
Yes.
And that can be really powerful in helping someone through. And so I have extended that into the podcast as well, and been going for about 8 or 9 months now. Yeah, and I'm going to keep going as long as I can. We cover a lot of different topics. I do share my personal story in the first episode, which is why I specialize. I went through postpartum depression and anxiety and OCD myself.
So you know firsthand.
I do know firsthand, and every mom's experience is different, but there are some threads of similarity. And a lot of therapists don't necessarily self-disclose this kind of stuff, but with these moms, because it's so isolating, and because everyone, most of the people who come to me say they feel crazy. And to know that there's somebody sitting across from them that understands what they're saying, on a personal level, and from, training and all of that in and of itself can be, a touchstone to like, okay, it's not just me. And I can feel better. Look, there's somebody who's sitting across from me that feels better, and I can too.
Oh my goodness, that's huge.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So on the podcast, I share that in the first episode, but then we go into lots of other stuff, episodes where we're talking with experts who do some of the trainings that I just told you about, and advocates who are doing work on a policy level to get laws changed to be more supportive of pregnant and postpartum moms. I have stories from moms and dads who've had their own lived experience going through these really, really difficult things, and how they got through, and that they did get through. Is one of the powerful messages in the podcast. We touch on depression, anxiety, OCD, and psychosis, which is very misunderstood, and all kinds of other things.
When you are going through something and you hear from people that you can relate to, it's just, there's nothing to describe how healing and comforting that is. It doesn't necessarily change your situation, but it changes the way that you feel about it, and you feel supported and connected.
Yes. Yeah.
It's powerful.
It is. It's relatively simple, but it can be hard to do. It can really be hard to get your story out there.
Yeah, that's why your podcast, I think, is such a great resource, because you can find it all in one place, and it's such a great for the child therapists that have a mom in their office that is feeling all this. It's free, and it has just a wealth of resources. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks. I really hope that it is. That's my goal, to have a lifeline out there.
And I know when you say it's your goal as a fellow podcaster, I realize the work that you put into it. It's a lot of work. So it truly takes passion. It takes that. I want the world to know about this. And I feel like this is something I need to share. So I really appreciate you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Podcasting takes up some time.
It does, and money.
Yeah. But it is such a cool way to get information out to people. Because, just whoever's listening to this right now, we're just kind of in the palm of their hand, or, they're driving in their car or whatever, and they can get this information while they're just going through their life. So cool.
Driving to work. I listen when I'm taking a hot bath. So doing dishes, you can really kind of fit it in anywhere.
It's so true.
About how, where can people find you on the web and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn?
Yeah. I have my website, drkaeni.com, drkaeni.com. And my podcast page is on there too, momandmind.com. I am on Facebook as Mom and Mind. I'm Twitter as Dr. Kaeni, Instagram as Mom and Mind, and LinkedIn with my long name, Katayune Kaeni. I'd love to connect with people. And part of the other work that I do is I volunteer for Postpartum Support International, and I get a lot of calls from therapists who are looking for resources as well. And I really love that part of connecting people to there's this training over here, or yes, there's this therapist over there. Because I think it's, we're all just trying to figure out how to get resources to people. So I'm available for that kind of thing too, to help direct people.
That's wonderful. And I'll put all those links in our show notes. So if you want to find those links, you can find that at playtherapycommunity.com. Or, if you wrote that down, you could go directly to her sites and her social media connections as well.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I love talking to you. I love your passion. And I can't even imagine how many people you've helped with your good work that you're doing out there.
Thank you so much. I hope so. And thank you for giving me the time and space to talk about this.
Oh, are you kidding? It's such an honor. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I really love Dr. Kat's work. If you haven't checked out her podcast yet, Mom and Mind, be sure to do so because it is such a valuable resource, whether you're a parent or whether you're a professional helping parents kind of navigate through the water of maternal mental health. There's a lot of unknowns out there, and she covers so many different areas that is far beyond just what a lot of people really recognize as maternal mental health. And if you haven't done so yet, I would love for you to visit our website. You can get the show notes to this episode there at playtherapycommunity.com, as well as I have a little video on there of my top 3 most used sand tray miniatures. So if you're interested in that, you could view that at the site, as well as join our free newsletter. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I can't tell you how much it means to me. I would love for you to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes if you are an iTunes user, because those reviews mean a lot, and I love the messages that you send. Thank you so very much. And we have a Facebook community, Play Therapy Community. It's a group. And Parenting in the Rain community, and also a page. Well, until next time, I will catch you later. Take care.
To join our growing community for free, just go to playtherapycommunity.com and find us on Facebook too.
Thanks for listening to the Play Therapy Community Podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.